Greetings, everyone. Welcome. Welcome to Dorsey's Resource. Welcome to another session. Okay, that's better. First, as usual, before we get started, this video is going to be for informational, educational, and entertainment purposes only. Please understand everyone's individual circumstance or situation may be different. It's up to every individual competent person to please do his or her homework and research regarding the information being discussed. This information is not to be construed as legal advice. In the event you feel you need to seek a competent professional, it is encouraged that you do so at one's own leisure. Dorsey's Resource Channel is not liable or responsible for any misuse of this information. Please govern yourselves accordingly. Everyone is responsible for their own affairs. All rights are reserved. Now, to get into the topic, I wanted this video to be a Tier 4B update with the IQD / Zim. I just got another email in. As I said, as usual, I want to try to do a better job at coming before you guys more often at a better time. I've been able to get some more breathing room because I have more days off now. In the past, I was working 6 days a week, even 7 days. Back in 2016, no lie, I worked 55 days straight. No joke. Still doing the same thing. Hope all is well out there. I had got word recently that I had a couple relatives who were sick. On a side note, my private business, so I try to keep up with that. I do care about loved ones, family members. I did let a family member know I did pray for my cousin in the Cleveland, Ohio area, who I just got positive word that he's off the ventilator. They say he had been diagnosed with COVID, and his mother, my aunt Trina, is doing better. So kudos to them, to both of them. And this, to get into the topic, I'm going to also be in the chat section as well to answer you guys. If you have any questions, statements, please keep in mind this is the best time to reach me. Don't hesitate to, if you have any questions, comments, or concerns, feel free to jump right in to the chat. But to get right in the topic of this video, it's going to basically a Tier 4B update. This was sent to me August 8th. This update was from Friday, August the 7th. And I'll read from, this is Fleming. This was forwarded over to one of my email addresses. It says, our early morning military intel contact is confirming Mr. Fleming's sources that reported that multiple times over the past several days, HSBC Hong Kong tried to send out the Tier 4B notification emails, but were blocked by the USA. And it was not just a case of personnel in HSBC being untrained on how to send out the notification emails. He said that the real reason for the blocks has been the DoD security team. I'm assuming that stands for Department of Defense, insistence on security and on verifying globally during the course of this week, brick by brick, bank by bank, paymaster by paymaster, group account by group account, at all levels, that no deep state operatives will get access to the funds in the shotgun release from the deep state criminal networks. He said, quote, he said the USA and now the IMF are still liable to pay for the ICC imposed fines and compounded interest. That deals with, I guess, every time, I've heard this years ago, they keep delaying the RV, the GCR, which is tied in with the IQD, the Zim, that there's like some type of fine or something that has to be paid. And for those of you all who might not be aware, just breaking down the intel for you guys, every time they continue to prolong this out, I guess there's fines behind this. So it says the USA and now the IMF are still liable to pay for the ICC imposed fines and compounded interest being recorded now in receipts for real payments for every day that Tier 4B notifications are not sent out. It says Trump agrees with the DoD security priorities enough to be willing to pay the fines and interest, but Trump wants everything to move much faster. He confirmed that Trump is still negotiating the way to pay these daily accruing amounts out of RV Tier 1 allocations for the USA. He said, we will see what comes out of the ICC arbitration hearings in the next 24 plus months. Next paragraph. I'm gonna jump in the chat real quick to see if you guys joined in. Just want to let you guys know. I want to thank everybody for joining. By the way, I'm your host, John Dorsey III. This is Dorsey's Resource. I appreciate you guys, everyone who's continued to follow me throughout the years, who stayed subscribed to me. Big shout out. If you can, don't forget to smash the thumbs up button. Every now and then I'll be going back from the intel to try to check you guys' messages. This is Q&A in case you're watching as well. Also, don't forget to subscribe, hit the notification bell. This is my main channel. I do have a backup channel, by the way, that I linked. You guys, if you can, want to go over there, subscribe as well. In the meantime, if you guys don't see me post videos for a while, I might post from that channel. I'm not sure if I have enough subscribers to go live yet on my other channel, if YouTube still goes by that rule, but it looked like when I did a test to give you guys a heads up, it defaulted back to my main channel, but I want to use that channel to give like maybe short updates if I can, or go live as well, so you guys can at least hear from me, so if I go dark for a while, I'm still out there. So to jump in the chat, we got Good Times says, hey buddy, greetings to you, thank you for joining. Chris in the building, peace symbols. Big shout out to you, Chris. Simon Johnson says, hey, Dorsey, shalom. Greetings to you. Thank you for joining. Dr. Ed says, peace and blessings, brother. I'm on deck. Thank you for joining. Sandra Weeks says, thank God your loved ones are doing better. Appreciate you. Namaste. Jada Lynn says, hello. I caught you live. Pierre Moore, says, hello, brother. Greetings to you. Big shout out. T and A says, appreciate you. Okay. Ram Amur L says, peace. 80s World's Daddy's Girl, first time on channel. Okay. Appreciate you guys. Forgive me if I mispronounce your names at all. Thank you for joining. In case you're watching, I'm going over the update that I just got for Tier 4B notifications, why the dinar, the IQD reset has been delayed, as we know, for a number of years. I just received another email recently, by the way, and don't forget, don't hesitate. I'll be going back and forth. So if you guys have any questions, I'm going to jump back to the update that I got. This update was more recently from August 7th. I received this email August the 8th. Okay, to the next section. He confirmed Mr. Fleming's sources saying that the TTM processing globally of the Dragon bonds this week encompassed such large amounts of liquidity that to allocate tranches of liquidity to accounts, they had to break up the bond types and do them in batches, and then verify, check, and review each hypothecation, and movement of liquidity. Okay, it has taken longer than expected, now estimated to be done by Sunday night, 8/9. Okay, that's tonight, much sooner than the original finished estimated date of next Friday, 8/14, thanks to Trump pressuring everyone on every RV team to get this moving fast. And they have it highlighted now in red marks. Thanks to Trump using what he called a Trump card on Pelosi in a 2-hour-plus meeting last night, Wednesday, 8/5, where Trump communicated the equivalent of a checkmate on her and the deep state's recent campaigns of hacker harassment and political interference to delay the RV, the revaluation. That's what the RV stands for, release, and has edited. Next paragraph. He confirmed that the ICC World Court arbitration hearings between the Trump team and the Chinese have pressured Trump in recent meetings to put pressure on and hold accountable key people on the RV teams to get the Dragon bond processing done earlier than at first expected, to get the brick by brick verification, review, audit process moving as fast as possible, and pushing the DOD, that's assuming Department of Defense security teams and Homeland Security, to bring maximum crackdown and arrest pressure on deep state holdouts, parentheses, mostly Democrats, but also deep state Republicans like Romney, etc. This is saying in parentheses where I'm reading from. This is a Fleming update, by the way, dealing with the GCR, who may still be foolish enough to ignore the fact that stopping the RV is a lost cause for them and who are trying to interfere politically with the RV release process at this late date. He said there is much less interference now from the deep state operatives than in past weeks, but holdouts like Pelosi, Nadler, etc., who are paying hackers and agitators, still need the proverbial prosecution threat slapped upside the head, he said. This is a Fleming update from one of his sources. Fleming is a top intel provider, and I don't really call them gurus in the movement, as some refer to behind the scenes. From what I've heard, he's someone who pretty much stays behind the scenes. I have another source, so that's where I'm reading from. That's dealing with why Tier 4B, while this delay is happening. In case you guys are wondering, as those have tried to say that this is a scam, there are banks that have sold this foreign currency before in the past. I have maybe mentioned the name of one of them. One in particular, I will say, Fifth Third, I was told stop selling it years ago, but at one time they would tell people this was a scam. I guess that was to try to deter people away, because only high level people, certain individuals, didn't want the general public to know about this type of investment. But because of the advent of the internet and things of that sort, more people have found out. And then many of you guys know the story already if you've been studying the history of the GCR. When I went over that previous documentary called Changes on the Horizon, and many previous videos I've discussed, if you've been keeping up, you will already know, by the way. So this is what they're saying from what I'm reading from, by the way. So Fleming is someone I was listening. I used to follow, and I still do from time to time, very rarely, TNT, his brother Ray Ren. I follow Bruce. I think sometimes even if the information may be different, it correlates with one another. And I think this is just another type of perspective, by the way. Some people mention intel from the perspective as far as what's going on in their geographical region of the world. By the way, but the United States is still ultimately, in my opinion, in control, as this was saying earlier, that the holdups are coming from the USA. And I had, just to let you guys know on a side note, before I finish up this particular article, I have one more or two more I can get to. I had a source that contacted me privately. I won't say her name, but I appreciate her. And we had a long discussion. I can't remember if it was last year. We spoke on Skype. She gave me reassurance and, very, very informative. And I want to say I do have some other sources that's told me privately, mentioned to me. One guy that I know has a friend who I got a chance to meet the guy before, saw it show up on Forex one night. So the reason I'm mentioning this is to provide validity behind this type of investment. And there's many individuals that do have receipts and documentation to validate and back up, not just from brick and mortar banks, but also foreign currency exchange brick and mortar retailers. One I called a couple years ago, stated to me when I had first heard about rumors of people exchanging, because they always said it was a tier 4, it was a tier system where you have VIP, very important people, as well as governments and corporations who will precede the general public. I was always aware of that intel from many years ago. This foreign currency exchange location I called, that's located in Birmingham, Michigan, told me they stopped selling the dinar in August of 2014, which ironically, earlier that year, I had heard from listening to TNT's conference call, who I think has brought excellent intel, that's based out in California, by the way, who I've never met before formally. By the way, it correlates, and he was sharing intel that year that people were starting to exchange, I guess, dealing with VIPs, very high net worth individuals, people who were privileged, basically. And I don't think that was a coincidence that this particular exchange location, this was back in 2014, stopped selling it. And everybody else has been delayed for a long time. This is why I believe personally that there is truth to let you guys know of deep state cabal, evil people is holding this up, and they have operatives that work within government. I call minions, underlings, gatekeepers who, are using this, that want to keep people enslaved. And I've gone over the fiat cabal system. I'm going to continue on, and I can go over some of that later. So just to let you guys know, I'm going to finish reading, And I'm going to get to the chat after I read this article before I go to the next one. This last paragraph, short portion says, he said, bottom line, August is still the month, and look to tier 4B start at any time as early as next week, and pray that every interfering force of darkness, wherever they may be among black hats or even among white hats, is exposed by God's light and removed to pave the way to manifest this release now. This is what this update is saying in the email. I'm just relaying it to you guys. From Fleming, kudos to the work he's doing behind the scenes. He chooses, it appears to be more private, but from what I've heard, he has a contact high up too within the military or whatever, because there's things that do go on behind the scenes. By the way, the previous administration person at the top was aware. That's why it's not a coincidence if you hear me mention it. Trump's name, by the way, this was going on even back to Bush, by the way. So just to give you guys a heads up, Bush Jr., by the way. So to get back into the chat section, let me see if we got Margie Toussaint says, hello, everyone. Have a blessed day. Thank you for joining, Margie. Good Time says, what's your thought on this new metals backs currency? By the way, I think that it's real. There's some validity to it. Good Times. What I'm not sure of is that I have heard that the new $100 bills are backed by gold or precious metals, and what many are wondering is there going to be a dual ledger or another financial system running at the same time when they bring in the new system. Like, is the old system still going to be around? It's a big question. I've heard there may be multiple financial systems, like several or whatnot. And guys, if you are joining, joining Dorsey's Resource. I'm your host, John Dorsey III, by the way, is my government name. And you're watching Dorsey's Resource. I'm going over a tier 4B updated the dinar. If you get a chance, please hit the thumbs up button. Don't forget to also subscribe if you haven't. You can follow me. I have a backup YouTube channel. I recommend if you guys can subscribe over there too, by the way, just so you guys will be aware. Jada Lynn says, we appreciate you. Appreciate you, Jada. Thank you for continuing to follow me. Namaste. Media Man 24 says, how does this relate to cryptocurrency? By the way, it's a good question. It's very similar in a sense. However, more physical. I would say that this actually, I know this predates the cryptocurrency era. By the way, if you can, will help provide some insight, which I mentioned if you've been following my work, my previous videos, even the more recent one prior to this video. If there's a documentary you can watch for free on YouTube, it's called Changes on the Horizon. You just have to type it in the search engine. There's a version that's like part 1 through 3 I just discovered that's still on YouTube, that's like in someone's playlist. Then there's another version that someone uploaded. It's an uncut version. Please watch Changes on the Horizon. It will help you connect the dots. Also, if there's any information online still, there may have been from years ago a lot of websites that went down, by the way, but there may be some still out there. It's been a while since I've taken a look, but many years ago, I won't say too long ago, but this is definitely about 10 years ago. Back in 2011, I did a lot of research before I got into this, because I had a friend call me in 2010, but I've known about this investment officially since 2006. These private meetings I used to attend dealing with the redemption, it was brought up. But the cryptocurrencies are something different, Media Man. Hopefully I'm answering your question, but the dinar, the GCR, predates the cryptocurrency era. That is something new that was developed, down the road, by the way, that is decentralized. However, the connection, the correlation would be dealing with the financial side, how this could free a lot of people financially. And this was not intended, this type of investment, but because of the internet, more people found out, and because they kept delaying it, I don't know, what the intentions were. I kind of maybe have an idea what I'm going over, but the dinar, some were saying, is still attached to the Federal Reserve, or some call fiat banking system, or central banks. by the way. But however, you can leverage it if you study the financial system. Now, there's a plethora of different investments out there. By the way, there's more I could say. Media Man, hopefully let me know in the chat if you're still there, if I helped answer your question at all. Too, by the way, Richie Rich says, you're very appreciated, brother. Thank you, Richie Rich, for the thumbs up. Appreciate you. John Naman says, God bless and thank you for your channel. Okay, God bless you as well. Appreciate you. Thank you for joining, John. Good Time says, do you think we will take a haircut on the fiat money we hold now, or is it wise to move all into silver? It's a possibility. That's why I mentioned in a previous video, don't put all your eggs in one basket. You want to diversify your portfolio, as they say, with many different types of investments, but make sure you do your research, that whatever you're getting into is credible. Do as much homework as possible. I noticed that precious metals have been rising. Silver has been in the bull market. More specifically, gold hit 2000. I just heard a video today where one analyst felt like gold wasn't in the bull market, but some people felt because it's hitting record numbers, it has. But it won't hurt, as a hedge against inflation, as a safe haven. To answer your question, Good Times, from the chat. So yes, it would be wise to move a portion, but you still may need, to have a certain amount of cash on hand for emergency funds or expenses in case a rainy day fund, or for emergency if anything happens. By the way, I did give a disclaimer, so this is not financial, legal, or securities advice. In the event you feel you need to seek a competent professional, it is encouraged that you do so at one's own leisure. I'm just giving my opinions on the topic. So going to the next question. Money Boy Films in the building. What's good, family? Appreciate you, Money Boy. Thank you for joining. Joseph Overson says, Exchange of America has summoned transition. They have Dong now too. Okay, Joseph, I'm not familiar with Exchange of America. If you want to elaborate on who they are, if you're still watching, I'm not really familiar with the Exchange of America. Richie Rich says, I live paycheck to paycheck and I use my SSN to pay my bills when I know they're going to be late. Buys me about 10 days in, then I get reversed, but at least gives me the time to my next paycheck. Okay, I'm not sure if you're referring to if you're still attempting to use the so-called secret account type thing, by the way. And there is some validity behind that. I did bring some notes with me on standby in regards to that private event I attended some years ago. There was a lot of information that I've kept quiet. I've kept my mouth shut about, but this has gone on way too long, tremendously. And not just myself, but a lot of people were frustrated at waiting for this a long time. So I do have some validity behind that, since you brought up about it appears as though the secret account, because you're saying I use my SSN to pay my bills when I know they're going to be late, buys me about 10 days and they get reversed. Okay, that sounds like you're using the secret account, which I actually have. This the application from an event I attended, the Pastor Tony King seminar I attended some years ago, where I first learned about that information. By the way, this is the application. It's an older form. This is the Federal Reserve. They have since updated their website too, by the way. So just to show because there was a gatekeeper out there trying to say that didn't exist. It wasn't real, but there is supposedly a legit way to access it. But the problem is that you have to have an elite or somebody that knows how to fill out the application. And many of us who are in the public haven't been privileged enough to come across someone who's willing to hold us by the hand to make sure the application is submitted correctly. And then there's like two different ways to do it. One way, I heard they were going to do an extensive background check on you, but if you did it as a corporation, then they would be light on you. But still, certain individuals have been blessed. And then back then, when I attended that event, by the way, I never got a chance to use this card. By the way, I'll show it briefly since you brought it up, brought the message up. By the way, and I'm not trying to show off. This is an older car with Chase. This is before the chips were mandated, by the way. And this did have a like a strip on the back. I'll try to hold it up to the reflector so you guys could see, by the way. And this was from what I understand, this was a sub through a sub account under a master account that he had. By the way, this what actually talks about when you read the operating circulars from the Federal Reserve's website, and that's why I was training people unofficially when I mentioned how I gave information to people for free. This is information that people could charge hundreds of dollars per hour, $1,000 for. And I said, you literally need a research team if you don't have a member of the ruling class, at least someone that's privy in the know, because you can see intentionally they're trying to hide that information. But if anybody does, that's the type of person I was looking for, just to let you guys know, by the way. If anyone knows how to access that without any reversals happening, please contact me at j279dorsey@gmail.com. If you are privy to that and you're willing to share, and you know how to access that without getting the reversals at all, by the way, and for serious inquiries, because I had someone who contacted me, I was under the impression they knew how to access it and they didn't know how to access the account. So that's other than that, I have in the description box I've gone over previously. For those who want to contact me, I now require a donation because I still do punch a 9-to-5 job, and I would like to get out of that. And that would have helped me tremendously if I had gotten access, which I was supposed to, from attending that previous event. But because some knuckleheads, some people out there, some idiots messed it up for everyone else, and because these elites or whatever, they don't see you as a single person, they see you as a whole, because they kept referring to us as a family or whatever. And when one person messes up, it messes everybody else up. So at least they got a chance to screw up. You know, I heard that there was some people having a contest of emptying out ATM machines. I don't know why people would be acting that stupid and doing foolish stuff. And we were supposed to wait for instructions too, by the way, before we actually received this. There was a lot of requirements I had to go through, and they're still holding my private documents and paperwork, which we were promised we were supposed to get back. By the way, it was so much stuff that went on, but just to let you guys know, this was real. This is no joke. That's why I showed you guys that application to show validity, and there is like a connection or correlation to this stuff, because they are using things pertaining to QSIP, form of a registered security attached to our Social Security and our birth certificate, also known as bond certificate, which is a form of a registered security, despite some out there that argue that it's not. It is a form of a registered securities instrument, by the way. So just going over that so you guys know what really happened. I don't really harp on that as much in the past, but I wanted to let you guys know I do have a legitimate source who told me privately, by the way, he was with someone that actually was cut off from that card that I showed. They went on a shopping spree. They were being too flamboyant with their transactions. This private source even told me there was an email that he received that we were supposed to wait for instructions. And during that time period, I want to say I follow all the rules before I decided to go public on YouTube, by the way. And that's because obviously you would be pissed off if you were in my shoes. You would be mad too, especially if they were still holding your private documentation and you were promised week after week, after month, year after year, and you didn't get what you were supposed to get. And you sacrificed a lot to make it to those events, travel, plane tickets, trying to get time off from your job, catching hell. People obviously would understand, but it's neither here nor there for the time being. But you guys get it if you truly understand, by the way. So I didn't mean to go into all of that, but thanks for the comment, Richie Rich. By the way, 80s World's Daddy's Girl says, in the coronavirus, the reason why there is no IQD for the sale at any currency exchange places, even Exchange of America says out of stock. What are your thoughts? It could definitely have an effect. COVID has affected a lot of different businesses, even the U.S. Mint. When I did a previous video about the reason why the price of silver and gold is going up, I just got confirmation that with silvers, the physical demand is very high right now. I even spoke to a coin dealer not too long ago in person that I go to. There's several different shops that I attend, but one in particular said he's never seen it like this before. It's been busy where people have been buying up silver. So now's the time. It's been steadily climbing and gold. So that's why I gave like a warning, said you had hurry up before it gets too high, because people were complaining when it hit 24, because it was below 20 most of this year, because they've been suppressing the price. That's not, of course, the real number. Many of you already know this. On the national debt clock.org, you can see what the real price is supposed to be like at over 4,000, and what it was back in 1913 through inflation. It was supposedly worth $2.65 an ounce. Now, I was also told it's actually well above that 4,000 amount where silver is actually supposed to be worth on the national debt clock.org. That's just a friendly estimate, by the way, but I heard it's eventually, because it's silver is used in a lot of different products, medical supplies, TVs, phones, laptops, many electronic devices. So the industrial demand is high, and it's some that believe one day that it will even supersede the price of gold and will catch up. And then down the road, they will even pay people privately, because big corporations, some of them I hear even setting up contracts with mining companies for their products ahead of time, similar to cryptocurrencies. How Ripple in particular got a contract with a bank or to act as a payment processing service. I heard a corporation in Japan made a contract with a mining company. I don't know the name, by the way, but the mining company, due to having to produce more silver, will have to increase their costs. You have labor, overhead, and stuff like that will cause and have a ripple effect and things of that sort if you connect the pieces, by the way. So yeah, the corona could have affected that, but that could also be indication and Eddie's that we're close to, by the way. So I think COVID has affected a lot. Joseph says, I heard that Iraq has a new dinar, but will not release it until they have recovered all of the dinar outside the country. Okay. That could be possible. I don't know all the details. I do know, what was stated, their thing, what's going on over there is separate from what's going to happen over here. Now, there is a particular currency that is pegged to, that I was told some years ago by a contact that I have, that why we played a role at this particular event I attended. I actually was told that if the banks, basically during Obama's administration, the banks were bailed out, so they didn't need us anymore for that. One of the reasons I attended that private event, the individual was explaining to me that the person, the front person who was saying we were going to get funded, but at the last minute they told them don't put a closing date on our paperwork that was processed through the DTC, that stands for Depository Trust and Clearing Corporation. And I don't know, there was private banks they were going through. There's a private side of California Bank and Trust, but I think they had to scratch a line out at the bottom when you get into high level banking practices where they deal with registered securities. I don't know all of the details how those transactions work, because I was learning the information, but I was told this has something to do with remember around the time of the mortgage meltdown, the collapse, pre-collapse. I heard that's coming back around with Lehman Brothers and Bear Stearns and all of that, the meltdown that happened back around 08 era. However, that wasn't contingent upon, when I did get that card that I showed, that was actually a backup. I heard we were supposed to get a separate transaction through the DTC. So that's another reason why a lot of people were frustrated. That was supposed to pacify us in the meantime, because they stated that they wanted to have 5,000 people, and they came to us. We didn't really come to them, even though I was recruited through word of mouth through my cousin. I wouldn't have never come to that event, by the way, just to let you guys know. He had to basically convince me. He told me, my older cousin, because I'm the oldest child, he was like my unofficial big brother. And he said, because you need to come, you'll meet other like-minded people. So I said, why not at the time? That was back in 09, over 10 years ago, by the way. So in a way, with this individual that was a front person, I was told by a source that I have too, because a lot of people were frustrated, are still upset because our private, we never received that back. And we were promised at one time that we were going to get those back if you requested it. But then I was told a few years ago that they already processed it, you wouldn't get it back or whatever. But I heard this was all tied in with the whole bailout thing, that the banks were too big to fail, by the way, and that we were going to be used to stimulate the economy, I guess privately or whatever. But at the same time, that all fell apart. Some people made it through, I heard, by the way, who weren't part of previous groups. There were other previous groups that went through prior to us. They kept that real secret, but I kind of figured that out on my own. By the way, that's why I put it out there. I was looking for someone who was knowledgeable pertaining to this type of information. That individual, someone has those credentials out there and is willing to walk me through. You can contact me without having to submit a donation. By the way, there are exceptions to the rule, by the way, but something I'm looking for, avenue, pathway that would get me out of this 9-to-5 job, because the way that I would look at it, you would have a friend for life. I would never forget you. By the way, you would have an ally, a strong ally, because I would look at it as though you helped get me out the rat race, the stress that I'm going through, and you rescued a brother from this ruthless public sector. But hey, I'm just putting it out there. Some people, one friend said, "Oh, you won't find nobody," because he said Pastor Tony King's the only one that knows how to do it, and this, that. So I said, well, I'm just putting it out there. You never know. But I was also told that if the banks do a bail-in, what's called, they can seize part of the funds that's in your account, and the excuse will be they will need to take your funds or you will lose it anyway. I maybe didn't finish answering part of the question earlier. That is possible if the banks issue capital controls. Now, capital controls deals with if they reduce the limit, your daily spending withdrawal limit at ATM machines. Like, say, if you can normally withdraw 500 a day, generally for individual personal accounts of 400 a day, they reduced it down to 500 from down to 100. Then that's significant. And I heard this happen in Cyprus, Greece, or they would be short, just like there's a coin shortage or whatever, that can have an effect. And there was even people lined up at one particular bank. And I was also told that the FDIC, they actually don't truly have the coverage like that is claimed, by the way, and that's only up to 250K per account. There's some people, quite a bit few out there, that hold more than that. That's why they were saying that some people have their significant portion at different banks. Because if you all have it in one, you only recover up to 250K, and you could lose everything if you had $1 million in there. Especially you didn't know what to do with it properly, because that's dealing with the public sector, by the way. So I was told you can end up waiting 10 years just to get your money back, if at all. By the way, from previous collapses that have happened, I guess, throughout history, and even in other parts of the world, such as Cyprus, Greece, I've heard, etc. So to get back to the chat again, I see Media Man 24 says, thank you. Dr. Ed says, did I miss the Zim update? No, the Zim is part of this. It's connected in the sense that it's more private from what I've heard, but it's tied in with the GCR. This is tied in with Tier 4B. Remember, there's a tier system. Tier is like a pecking order. You had Tier 1, 1, and 2. That's like governments, big governments, corporations. Tier 2, 2, 3, Tier 4, Tier 2 and 3, high net worth people, VIPs, people of that sort. Then Tier 4B, I don't know why they created this Tier 4B, by the way. It seemed like that was a way to slow it down, because Tier 4B is like, they say, the internet group where people keeping up that are in the know versus the general public, because the numbers have increased over the years. As they said, more people have found out. But there's some people that don't believe that this is real, and this is why I give a disclaimer. That's up to everyone to do their own homework and research. I'm not here to try to convince people whether this is real or not. I've given my examples in the past, just sharing from my experience in my opinions, this is not securities advice. This is not legal advice. So I encourage everyone, you have to do your own homework. Everyone is responsible for their own affairs. But in my opinion, I do think that there is some validity to it happening. The Zim I've heard is once the 800 numbers come out, you want to contact them. By the way, the call centers, you want to you make sure you notify them of all the currencies. But I heard the Zim bonds, they're called a bond because of what's written on there too. When you understand some high level parts of banking, I won't go into all the details pertaining to that. Then you will I was advised that you should report that first if you go to exchange, but that'll be a separate exchange from your other currency, from what I've heard allegedly. The intel that ties in with the dinar, the private exchange locations, I heard allegedly recently a little bit of info that they were affected by the recent hurricane. I even heard that they were affected by the riots that happened with George Floyd during that time period. There were some exchange locations, but some people said that from getting intel, this was from Bruce's end, that they felt that, some people didn't believe that because it's always an excuse after excuse. But I think there could be some validity to it, but I don't know. The intel that I'm reading from, in case you guys are joining me, I'm reading Fleming's update from his source, because different people have different types of information and speaking. I'm also speaking from my experience and people that I know. I do know that, as I mentioned earlier, Fifth Third Bank used to sell it at one time. I know a guy that's married, by the way. I talked to him not too long ago. It's been a while. He told me he picked some up from them years ago. At one time, they used to tell people they don't deal with the dinar because they had to make it look to the general public, make it look like it's a scam or something. And another bank would do the same thing, by the way, whose name I'm not mentioning, but another source that went to Fifth Third picked some up from them as well. I also met someone who used to work for Fifth Third Bank, or they still may work for them in the Ohio area. I won't say her name. I do remember, but in one of the cities in Ohio, she gave me intel and told me, and she was holding dinar. She was aware of it, by the way. So, I asked the question. I told a relative, if this was a scam or this was fake, then why would these places be allowed to even sell or deal with the dinar, by the way? But you do have scams to watch out for. That's if people were selling like the older version with Saddam Hussein's face on it. Don't know if they'll accept that back, because that was part of the older money they did away with, from what I understand so far. So you want to make sure you have the correct notes. And then there was people who were involved in like maybe counterfeiting stuff like that. That gets into the scam, but there's a legitimate side, I believe, in my opinion. However, everyone has to do their own research and make their own assessment and evaluation, by the way. So I just got, I see a super chat in here from TNA. Thank you for the super chat, by the way. So I'm going to read the rest of the comments in the comment section, by the way. It says, new day, I'm late, but boy, do I need to revalue. Is it soon? By the way, hopefully it'll be soon. Troy Letford says, thank you for your intel. When do you think the RV will happen? By the way, that's always up in the air. Troy, I put it on the back bar. It could be close. I say they could even stall this out till next year. By the way, I think there's even a date or something I've heard from listening to some other type of intel. It could go all the way into next year. By the way, that's why I don't get hyped up anymore, because they made it seem like week after week. And plus, when I attended that private event some years ago, and we were devastated when we were cut off, because I was like really close. I'm not going into all the details of my personal business, but just to keep basically being told, it's like you're getting false hopes and false dreams. But I want to encourage you guys, don't get down. I try to keep my spirits up or whatever. So whenever I would hear updates, I say, okay, maybe it's a possibility, but I don't get hyped up anymore like I used to. I just treat it as it's a possibility. This is why I'm going over. But it does appear that it is getting closer, by the way. Hopefully as always, soon, but soon, you know, it's not a definitive time. Like we know, is it going to be definitive? And I think the people that set this up, they didn't want people to know. From what I was told, I used to go over that. They don't want you to know like it's going to be tomorrow or whatever. They don't want definitives. They want it to just happen inconspicuously, just show up, by the way. So I try to forget about it, you know, if that helps out at all. Ram Amour L says, Dorsey, consider setting up a link to have people buy silver. Okay, I'm not sure, you know, how, you know, to do that specifically. I don't have any deals. What would you call that with certain YouTube channels I saw where they have like maybe a partnership or sponsor, by the way. So if you guys have any intel about that and want to share that, how to do that, I wouldn't mind. However, but I do notice you do have to be careful for what you promote too, because if things with that particular company goes awry sometimes, then people will look to you if something bad happened. Like there was a scandal some years ago where one company, it wasn't their fault, but there were some con artists. They had sold some fake silver bars they had discovered, had slipped their way through some major exchanges online, by the way. You want to make sure if you are getting into precious metals that you be careful. You have your silver tested out. This is why I was told by someone that was more knowledgeable than myself, why I personally stayed away from bars, even though I didn't realize that 5 ounce, 10 ounce bars, they've been flying off the shelves. They're very liquid, but it's harder for the con artists to make like silver eagles and rounds, but they have done it before. And there's a guy that has a channel. He shows you how to detect fake silver. They're not supposed to stick to a magnet, but that isn't the only test. Some of them, they use tricks or whatever where they'll put like silver coating. So you have to be careful. But you know, if I could earn like a commission, I wouldn't mind, but I don't have really information about sponsorships. There's a lot of things because it's just me doing this YouTube channel basically by myself too, by the way. So I tried to get help in the past. So when you guys do donate or super chat, it helps out tremendously. Like I said, if you guys want to see me go to the next level, I am still working on possibly, it's still up in the air. And I should have done it probably a long time ago as a Patreon account. That way I would be able to go more in depth and set up a tier system on there. And I would, because I can go in a lot more detail about a lot of things and information, by the way, just to give you guys a heads up. So that is a good idea, Ramel. Hopefully Amuru L, by the way. But, you know, I recommend as earlier, just in my opinion, because this is not securities or financial advice, but if you check your local area for your coin dealers, I don't know whatever state you're in. I did hear one guy say he's in the New Jersey area because I started subscribing to a lot of silver channels that I follow. So I just love looking at them, the different channels that are out there. And one guy said in the New Jersey area, their local coin dealers there, they charge a lot more. They're more expensive. They charge a higher premium. I guess they're more greedy. Where some places, the coin dealers, they don't charge as much. So he mentions he goes online, but you have to be careful when you go online because one guy that I know personally, I won't say his name, behind the scenes, that helped educate me privately some years ago. Once we got to know each other better, shared this with me, has a lot of wisdom. And he went over the responsibility behind it being careful. By the way, is when you don't know what you're getting always because you can't physically hold it, but you prefer to be somewhere where you can see it. But you go to trusted sites that are verified, certified, basically like AppMex is one of them. Gainesville Coins. I have bought from AppMex before in the past. MCM, I can't really think if I'm pronouncing their name. JM Bullion is pretty good. Just throwing some names out there in general. And I don't have any sponsorships, by the way. I'm just sharing this as a courtesy for those, if you're getting into precious metals for the first time, just take a precaution. Learn as much as you can. There's a lot of information from a lot of different YouTube channels who I've seen lately have been in this for years, put out tremendous work, excellent videos, good intel. I love looking at them, the different types of coins that are out there. and you have collectors, but right now I will be focusing more on bullion, not the collector stuff. By the way, you're dealing with dollar cost average for those of you all who know about that, so you're not wasting your money because it's expected it's going to shoot up there. Let me see here. Going back to the chat, is my Zim just pretty paper? New Day says it's good. You know, and I know it may appear that way. There's I would say there's another side to it. If I was on Patreon or somewhere, a platform more private, I could go into more detail because YouTube is very public, by the way. But if you're holding Zim, I would make sure I hold on to it because you never know. It's like I had a banker at a particular bank that told me dealing with foreign currency. He said this reminded him of the futures market. By the way, he was laughing. He thought, but I was glad he had experience with trading. By the way, he said this was similar to playing futures, like betting or whatever. So if it does, I was even told by someone some years ago, a coin dealer, by the way, who was involved, and this just said, get a little bit at a time. Don't go crazy. Because if it happens, it happens, but just don't go all in. Like with all investments, you put in a little bit, but you know, don't go crazy with it, like putting up your whole life savings or your retirement or whatever, like some people done. Then that's putting all your eggs in one basket, you know. But you want to be cautious. Make sure you do in-depth research, you investigate and evaluate. By the way, if you guys are joining for the first time, I'm your host, John Dorsey at Dorsey's Resource. Please don't forget to subscribe. If you haven't, please hit the thumbs up button. Helps me rank higher. If you agree with what I'm saying, this is also like an unofficial way of voting. By the way, it helps me rank higher in the search results. If you want this information to get out there, you want to see me talk about woke information, you want more people to wake up with all the suppression going on with the new algorithm system and stuff like that on YouTube. You want to make sure you definitely support your woke content creators that are bringing you quality content. I'm not funded by George Soros, so this is unfiltered. By the way, you're getting real information from real person, real experience, not someone hiding behind a fake account, by the way. So thank you, but thank you guys for joining, all who have subscribed. Also, if you can, make sure, don't forget to subscribe to my backup channel. It should be linked. I just recently linked it to this channel, by the way. So be on standby over there. I don't have any videos uploaded yet on my backup channel, but just be on standby because I might be doing some live stuff over there just when I go dark on this channel for a while or upload content on the other channel, by the way. So don't forget to subscribe. Still, it's Dorsey's Resource channel too, by the way. 80s World says Exchange of America sells currency. Okay, I didn't know that at first. Okay, I think now it's starting to become clear. Thanks for sharing with, because I have noticed you do have online foreign currency exchanges to purchase foreign currency from. So I wasn't familiar with them. Thank you for sharing. Good Time says appreciate your thoughts on the channel. Emerald Sky says, have you heard of block assets or SDN list? Yes, I have heard the SDN list. I'm not sure what the acronym you're referring to about the SDN list, by the way. Not familiar with that, but I have heard of block assets. Somebody showed me a form, by the way. Moneyboy Film says facts. Galactic Soul in the building says, good to see you, Dorsey. Just got here, catching up in the chat. Okay, appreciate you. No problem. TNA says, I've been following you for like 5 years. I think appreciate the intel for sure. Okay, appreciate you, TNA. Thank you. That's what I got for you right now. Laugh all loud. Okay, appreciate you. Kudos. Thanks again for the super chat. Joseph Overson says, Saddam dinars are scrap, worthless. Okay, that's what I thought, basically. But there were people out there, individuals that were doing some scamming. I know it was going on. I heard about, by the way, but I was just referencing to that. There is the legitimate side, which I believe, but still everyone has to do their own research on this. By the way, if you decide this is something you want to get into. Ja B says SD Bullion. Okay, yeah, I heard about them. I actually came across them today. I'm going to look at their site again. I think that's another good online dealer, by the way. Christy Isaac says pretty eyes. Okay, thank you. Appreciate you for the compliment. Chef Mag says, appreciate you. Chef Mag says, Dorsey, why should we not register to vote? Oh, wow. You hit me with a question that pertains to redemption information, by the way. And I do have some separate notes on that, by the way, because I would say that for a whole separate video, by the way. But, I'm going to say this for the time being. That's a good question, Chef Mags. And that's actually because YouTube is more public and I'm in a different category. So I know you guys may hear me throw that out there. I'm not a registered voter. When I do discuss politics, I want to show people I'm more apolitical. So you're getting a fair balanced perspective, even though I admit I lean more to the right. But I'm really truly, literally in the middle, certain things, by the way, but I do lean to the right. I don't shy away from, Trump. Doesn't mean that you co-sign everything someone says or does just because you support someone. You pay attention to their policies. There's a difference between identity politics versus politicians who have good policies. They might not have a good personality or good character, but they may be good at business or something else that you admire that is real, versus another group basically trying to discredit things of that sort. I'm not trying to get political, but to answer Chef's Mag question in the chat, I'll speak cryptically. It was attached to some contracts some years ago, by the way. Oh yeah, I just noticed good times in the super chat. Thank you for the super chat. It says cheers to you. Appreciate you, good times, for the super chat. By the way, but to answer your question, Mag, it is kind of sensitive, by the way, and that's why I did discuss, if I mentioned even in the past, if I had Patreon set up, I would have to do more private videos because it gets kind of in depth, by the way. But it is a form of a contract. I've discussed it in other videos, even the main video when you come to my channel, and some other videos, that I don't want to be attached to the negative consequences of being a registered voter. Now, I do uphold the process of being a registered voter. I respect it. But remember, there's a difference between registration and recording. You know the difference between the public and private sector. You look at the bills, even the dollar bills that we carry in our pocket, because there's some out there will argue that this private sector doesn't exist, but it tells you right on the dollar bills, it says these notes are legal tender for public and private debts. So many forms of business we get engaged with are forms of contracts, by the way. And they have certain implications behind them. And this was something I discovered some years ago when I was in the process of waking up back in 2004. And that's why I haven't been a registered voter since then, because I heard of some of the negative things that came behind that particular contract. And because the, how can I put it on a public side, they want you to register. That's under a different bracket too, by the way. And there's a reason why, this even gets into how these companies and jobs are tapping into your SSN account, by the way, but they're not giving you the other option, even for various ways that people pay their taxes or in different tax brackets, because they want to try to direct you in a one-sided way when they're supposed to give you options, by the way, and they're not leaving those other options open because they want behind the scenes. I could go into more detail. I'm just kind of speaking vague, because this is some sensitive information to answer Chef Mag's question about, and I did give a disclaimer, so this is not legal advice, but this is just me personally. I'm in a different category, a different bracket than the average person. I attended an elite private event some years ago, by the way, which I went over, and that's the reason why, for these reasons, I don't vote. I'm not a registered voter. Don't have any plans to anytime soon. By the way, but there is a form. It is a form of a contract, and it's a difference between recording and registration. And the elites, the cabal or gatekeepers, some of them are not aware that are operating in the public sector. They feel they're doing the right thing, getting people to register, stuff like that. And I commend everyone out there that makes your voice heard, whatever side you support. That's fine. But me, myself personally, I don't want to be attached to the negative consequences behind that type of contract. By the way, for the reasons I've chosen, and what I was told some years ago, by the way. And there's people that know me personally, people I've already shared, coached, given free information to about that as to the reasons why, and I went more in depth with that, by the way. So hopefully, I said a mouthful, Chef Mag. That would be maybe, if you were interested in more information, maybe for a private consultation or something like that. But because YouTube is more public, I'm going to limit it at that. But thank you for the question. Emerald Sky says, especially designated nationals list. Okay. Now I've heard that before. Okay. I wasn't familiar with that. So thank you, Emerald Sky. Galactic Soul says, which dinar are real? By the way. Oh, if you didn't know, if you're not involved, this video is, it's not really about that, Galactic Soul. You may have to play catch up, but I was referring to the ones that the newer versions. If you go on eBay, just type in Iraqi dinar, get familiar with those notes. But the one, to keep it simple, that don't have Saddam Hussein's face on there, you want to make sure you stay away from those, which are pretty much out of circulation, by the way. But don't stay away from those notes. But this is not legal or financial advice. So I want to let you guys know, if you aren't involved in that, that's something you have to make your own evaluation assessment from. I'm speaking from my experience. These are my opinions on the topic. So definitely do your research if you're not familiar with that. Chef Mag says, I don't feel comfortable registering. Okay, you're not registered. Okay, I understand. There's actually someone too, by the way, who I noticed over in the UK, who put out a video. Like, I can tell, I heard Eon say this years ago. He was under the name Brett Jones, Legal Redress Commission, say that they're watching our videos. He talked about people who work within the court system, or some called gatekeepers, because they're given access. They have a bar number, that P number license they get issued through the county, just like where people get marriage licenses and other registrations, concealed carry licenses and stuff like that. Registration is something that's public, by the way. So if you already aren't registered, then that's a good thing, I would say, because what they're trying to do, they're trying to pull you into these different contracts. And when they get you in these contracts, then you're under, you would fall up under certain types of jurisdictions. And the form of being a registered voter, that's called an adhesion contract too, by the way. Because another thing that's interesting, the Department of Motor Vehicles, Secretary of State, they can register you, but they can't cancel your registration. Like here where I'm at, you have to specifically go to the Department of Elections to have it canceled, or it's really terminated. But, gatekeepers on the public side, they use these jurisdictional terms, cancel, but it's really terminate. But what will happen is they eventually fall out the system after so many years, just like the driver's license will. So I know a guy, through one of my sources I have, told me his friend, who I knew as well, they grew up together. They're older than myself, got locked up, got caught up in a situation where the lady he was dating had lied on him. He spent like 5 years in prison. And his friend told me that when he was in prison so long, that his driver's license, they couldn't even find him in the system anymore. It fell out the system when he went back to the Secretary of State. He actually had a CDL. He used to drive buses, like school buses or whatever. And it had dropped out the system, which I correlated. It's mighty interesting. That's the same thing I explained to this friend that happened, I believe, with my situation. It eventually goes out their system. And there's other things I could go into as well, by the way. Jabi says, I rescinded my voter registration. New Day says, April or June, she can help you with the private SS account, Sovereign Citizens paperwork. She's on YouTube. Yes, I'm familiar. I am familiar with April. However, there are different processes, different methods, by the way. There's a lot of people there. When she first came out, by the way, I was actually already out. I had did some videos. I never got as big as her channel, by the way. But there were some guys that came over to this channel back during when the TDA movement broke out back in 2017. And I did subscribe to her. I watch her from time to time, check out the information. She has a different way of doing things. I'm already someone that's experienced. I need like advanced training. I've already attended that event that I showed, went over the information. So I'm looking for people with particular skill sets that are advanced, more advanced than myself. I'm at a certain level on this, more advanced. I'm definitely not a beginner though, and I'm not intermediate. It's things that I know about that I can. It's ways I can confirm. I even just forgot recently. I shared with someone. I was given through one of my sources a while ago. I have the UCC filings of some famous people, by the way. I will say a few of them are music artists, and one of them is the president. These are some UCC filings where I can prove that UCC filings are real, because there's people out there that's tried to make them seem like there's a gatekeeper, does a lot of videos that accuses people of calling them anybody a sovereign citizen, and I've never used that term. Be very careful if anybody says that they're an agent, whether they're aware of it or not. By the way, I've never referred to myself as that, by the way, but I refer to things when you're engaging in contracts. That is something that's real. You don't have to engage in certain contracts. By the way, when you understand that you studied a portion of the law, you don't have to be a lawyer or a legal expert. By the way, like just like if you get offered these rewards cards when you go to the grocery store, that's a form of a contract. By the way, you don't have to accept it. You can say, I'll tell them when I'm going to Micro Center and they say, what's your zip code when you're making a purchase? I say, no, I don't want my name. I don't want to receive any mail, or I'll ask ahead of time. And they say, hey, ma'am, sir, would you like to sign up for our rewards card, our rewards program? And I'm so confident. I tell them, will I receive any junk mail? Does that put me in a contract? Even though they say no and this, that, and other, I still don't do it, especially if it's attached to your card. If your credit card or is attached to your bank account, and your bank account, that bank account is attached to your SSN. See, I can go more in depth about these things, but I'm keeping it simple because YouTube is still public. By the way, and like I said, if I start a Patreon account, I will be able to go more in depth. If you do want to contact me for coaching, I should have information in the description box about that. In the previous video, I do require a donation now, and that the reason being is because I've gotten a lot of requests and I haven't got assistance. Like some channels in the past, when people had good information, they would have people that volunteered to help start a website, stuff like that. But I never really got the type of assistance like that. And there's a lot of work that's put in because I'm still punching the clock to a 9 to 5 job, basically, as a figure of speech. So that takes up my time. Unfortunately, I spoke to the operations manager recently. We reached an agreement, negotiation, by the way, that I wasn't going to no longer be doing 6 days a week if I could help it, because this was a night shift. And I had a friend of mine, real good friend, check on my behalf with the guy that worked at a particular store. And they said they give him 3 or 4 days off in a row from him working a night shift, because it takes your body, it's tough to recuperate. A lot of people don't understand that. So my whole algorithm with my body got just thrown off. I've done this for many years, by the way. And after so many years, it takes a toll. So I said I was going to work on coming to you guys more. And that's one of the reasons I've had more energy and more time to take notes and information. And I appreciate you guys that have donated, that super chatted. It is, believe it or not, it's a big help. Every little bit counts, by the way. So I could go definitely more in depth once I get more time. So before I get back to the chat, I'm going to go into the next email I have dealing with the intel. So in case you're watching, don't forget to thumbs up. I'm your host, John Dorsey the third at Dorsey's Resource. I'm going over Tier 4B update about the dealing with the IQD, the Zim. This is also Q&A. So if you guys have any questions, feel free to chime in the chat, or any statements, concerns. Also, don't forget to subscribe, hit the thumbs up button, hit the notification bell at the bottom right-hand corner of YouTube. So whenever I go live, put out new videos, YouTube will notify you. Also, subscribe to my backup channel, by the way. So when I put out updates over there, you guys will be on top of it. Don't forget. So getting into the, this is the more recent update. I just received this today, 7 hours ago at 2:58. p.m. This is another update. This is forwarded from one of my sources who I appreciate. Kudos to this source, by the way. And it states, here's our military intel contact update last night. It says, our military intel contact just briefly said that USA involvement in the OBOR initiative is part of the negotiations as well as aspects of the China/USA trade deal, as Trump is looking for the best deals for the USA. Period. It says Dragon bonds still expected to be finished being processed by Sunday night, 8/9, that's tonight, with liquidity payouts redemption starting by Tuesday, 8/11, forward next week, current schedule. He said more later when he has time, by the way. Then there's another paragraph after that. Give me a moment, guys. Okay. Okay. Going to get to the next paragraph. He said he is confirming Mr. Fleming's sources saying that the RV teams are on course as of today, Friday, 8/7, to finish up what needs to be done over this weekend so that the shotgun liquidity release can start sometime Monday into Tuesday, 8/10 through 11, with Tier 4B notifications coming out Tuesday, 8/11, according to the current schedule. If all the Blue Zimbon TTMs are finished Monday, 8/10, as expected, confirming that if Tuesday, 8/11, Tier 4B notification timing is pushed forward 24 hours. Trump and the RV teams are still on a mission to get it out ASAP next week because of commitments Trump has made to the Chinese and ICC about GCR debt relief starting this month, requiring liquidity shotgun release to start the first half of next week. He is confirming Mr. Fleming's sources saying that Trump is insisting that the funds go out no matter what in the time frame next week because Trump is controlling a series of logistical problems that need to be monetized and has made a new set of promises to the Chinese under the ICC oversight. And because of that, they agreed to start 16 behind the scenes implementation measure of NASARA/GCR on Wednesday, 8/5, with the main measure being Jubilee debt relief to citizens inspired by the Jubilee 50-year debt cancellation in ancient Israel in Leviticus chapter 25, verse 8 through 13. So over the weekend and by Monday, 8/10, the banks will be notified about starting the debt relief programs. After Saturday, 8/15, when the banks will begin to forgive zero-out mortgage debt and credit card debt. This is not across the board yet, but it will begin after 8/15. Parentheses, next, the senior executives of the bank know what will be happening. The first level of debt forgiveness that was done this past week was to zero out country to country debt. And though this is not public yet, it will become public soon enough. And then it has edited in parentheses, next paragraph. He is confirming Mr. Fleming's sources saying the Dragon bond TTMs, this in parentheses, buyers, seller, large transaction exchanges / redemptions have been taking most of the time this past week, and we're going very slowly. Each TTM has lasted 6 to 8 hours to get everything processed, following sometime by a 24 to 48 hour hold for review and audit, confirming that the UST RV team said that everything has been going well with these TTMs, but they have been exhausting for all involved because they have produced a lot of paperwork, alongside post-transaction verifying, checking, rechecking, auditing, reviewing, etc. to get them done. Boxes of these Dragon bonds have been processed in 25 locations across the USA and internationally. and this is in parentheses, it has London, comma, HK, Singapore, etc., worth trillions and trillions of dollars. Each, this is in parentheses as well, each Yellow Dragon bond being processed currently is worth about 1.4 trillion. And boxes are being processed to release huge amounts of liquidity for group paymasters and sub paymasters to pay out to downline beneficiary accounts for all tiers around the world, and to provide redemption funds for Tier B redemptions that are about to start next week, confirming that this process involves downstreaming liquidity from D1 and D2 and converting it from USD to USN by Monday 8/10 for liquidity release and shotgun start by Tuesday 8/11, comma, Tier 4B redemptions to be paid out in the USN into Tier 4B currency holder accounts from Tuesday 8/11 forward through physical USN currency notes will not be available until September, is saying. Okay, and then we're going to the next paragraph. Okay, let me make sure I check to see if we're still live and everything. I see we got some more in. So I'll jump back in after I get finished reading this update from that I received, and I'll go over you guys comments or questions. Keep in mind this is also Q&A, so if you guys are watching, have any comments or concerns, don't hesitate, chime right in if you have a chance. So on to the next paragraph. He confirmed Mr. Fleming's sources reporting that the UST, DOD, and White House are saying there is very little to be worried about, and they and RV teams are getting the release done now and out the door over the next week, confirming that there has been back and forth with the last of the countries in recent weeks over their getting off the old Cabal SWIFT system onto the QFS, that stands for Quantum Financial System. But now all countries are on the QFS and are ready to go. Okay, excellent. Next paragraph. He confirmed Mr. Fleming's sources saying that the IMF, International Monetary Fund, was supposed to post international rates to start the public tier, that's tier 5. Basically, we're on tier 4. That's those of us in the know, the internet group, by the way. On Saturday, 8/15, in a week after tier 4B was supposed to have been done with exchanges / redemptions, comma, but now Trump has negotiated with the IMF to start the public tier 5 and post the international rates on Tuesday 9/1 to give tier 4B enough time with the 800 numbers out to finish for tier 4B redemptions. He confirmed that since the IMF is paying fines with the Trump administration, that's because the longer they're delaying this, there's fines that have to be paid. Under the ICC ruling in China's favor, this is the very last time that the IMF wants to move forward the date of posting the international rates. This is it in their view. So we'll see. Hey, if this is it, hopefully so. Comma. So now the IMF is having to exchange the dates on all the international financial contracts and agreements from 8/15 to 9/1, comma, which is hard work for them, and which is something they do not want to do again. So they said this is it. And then it has edited in parentheses under it. So on to the next paragraph. We got 2 more paragraphs to go. This is, or actually about 3 technically. He is confirming, again, Mr. Fleming's source is saying the bulk of the Dragon bonds are still expected to be finished being processed by Sunday night 8/9, with the TTM bonds being made liquid Monday 8/10. The Blue Zim TTMs expected to be finished being processed on Monday 8/10, and 800 number notifications coming out for redemptions starting Tuesday 8/11 forward next week, which is the current schedule accounted to his info. He confirmed Mr. Fleming's sources saying again that there is much less interference to the RV release now from deep state politicians, hackers, and operatives than in past weeks, but holdouts like Pelosi, Nadler, etc., who were paying hackers and agitators in the past week. Now, I'm just reading this, guys. I don't know if that's true or whatever. This is what this is saying in this intel from Fleming. By the way, I went over that. That was, I guess, some of the same info from the previous article. So, but I do believe there was cabal influence, by the way. So it says had to be dealt with this past week, confirming Mr. Fleming's sources that there are still arrests going on in the background of high-profile deep state politicians, bureaucrats, corporate heads, bankers, and celebrities, comma, most being arrested for pedophile slash human trafficking crimes, but also for acts of treason, comma. He confirmed that the DOD, that stands for Department of Defense, wants to keep the names private now, comma, partly so as not to give the deep state reasons to start violent riots again through Antifa agitators in major cities. The names will be made public at a time DOD is determining now. I did hear previously, just to give you guys a heads up from a previous email that I got, you guys want to be careful if you belong to any of these organizations. I was told, even when I attended that event some years ago, like when I showed this card or whatever, I was told by a source that even at that event, which is separate, they never told us that was connected to this at all or whatever. I was just understood maybe the reset thing, but they ran a background check is what I was informed. By the way, just to give you guys a heads up. And they told us back then, many years ago, he stated to not belong to any groups or organizations. I don't belong to any organizations at all. By the way, now I know people part of this organization, but I never went through official initiation, by the way. And I was part of some Facebook groups, by the way, but I haven't done anything active. But this previous email was saying that if you remember, like of Antifa or possibly BLM, they were listed on the watch list as terrorists or other groups. By the way, the banks, they could have information that could prevent you. I heard it was mentioned allegedly they're going to run another background check, and this may be included in the NDA paperwork. That's the non-disclosure agreements, by the way. So just keep that in mind. This is how a lot of this stuff is tied in, because these people, they don't want people, messing this up basically, and putting themselves in harm's way too, by the way, because there's been many stories of people have won the lottery and things of that sort in the past, and they squandered the money. There was things that happened, and they're trying to prevent that. They are aware of some of these things. That's why I also heard that the Zim was going to be something's going to be done where you can have it different period set up to put it like in a high yield account or something like that, to like a 25-year period where it would accrue interest over time, and that would keep people from overspending or squandering it, blowing it. But you want to make sure, if just to give you guys a heads up, what I hear, and also drug dealers and things of that sort, because the premise is they don't want cabal people or deep state operatives getting a hold. They are aware they're trying to do away with the enslavement system with the central banking system. That was a lot of corruption involved, and there's balance. They're trying to do their level best to drain the swamp as much as possible, because if they let it continue, this is why we're in the mess that we're in, because there's a lot of misconduct that's going on, money that was stolen, mismanaged, and not being done fairly. And a lot of this was tied in through the banking system, by the way, just to give you guys an explanation. So I hear they have ran some background checks already. They're going to be running even more background checks, by the way. And every time I go to the bank, I'm very professional. You want to make sure that you're polite with them if you go to exchange or any transactions you make of that sort. But also, they may be running background checks. I don't know all of the details, but that's why it's going over this information in here in case you guys are not or have not been made aware. So it says the names will be made public at a time the Department of Defense is determining now, confirming they are testing the EBS emergency broadcast system, because right now there will be an announcement made by Trump next week, possibly about the coming debt relief, and they have to be prepared to bypass the deep state control fake stream media to make that announcement. This is what this article was saying, and it has edited in parentheses I'm reading from. Just jump to the chat area to see how many people. 42 still joining me. Okay, it's up to 47. Okay, I'm gonna read the last little bit of this article, and then I'm gonna jump back in the chat section. By the way, it says he is confirming again that Zim holders should make their appointments the first 4 days after the 800 number notifications come out. He said payers are still appreciated for RV teams to get this rolled out on schedule, on time, in their current schedule this weekend into next week. So once again, he's confirming again, Zim holders should make their appointments the first 4 days once this is released, by the way. So once you get official word, the word of mouth travels around, the 800 numbers come out, you want to make sure, I've heard, you take care of that. If you do hold Zim at all, get that out the way first, by the way. Okay, now I'm going to jump back in the private, in the chat section. Okay, New Day says she is legit. Okay, got you. I believe so. Yes. Chef Max says thank you. Galactic Soul says okay, thank you. I get it. It's cool. Keisha says peace and blessings. Peace and blessings to you, Keisha. Thank you for joining. Appreciate you. Edgar Rios says I have the 2018 IQD series, which I believe is the newest notes in circulation. Only difference is it's got new security features and really nice looking notes. Okay, yeah, I've heard about the security features that were put in those notes too many years ago, so they could have updated ones too. That wouldn't surprise me. Just like I've heard there's been new types of Chinese yuan notes that have come out in past. I was informed. Good Times says the dong is a better price over the dinar in my opinion. I've heard it's 2,000 USD. For a 1 million dinar, you should be able to buy 40 million or 40 million dong for that, and from a bank, not eBay. Okay, if you still can get a hold of it. By the way, I'm not sure if you still can. I haven't checked, and like I said, I'm refraining from saying the name of one of the banks that I got that from on different years and more recent years, by the way. And I learned that kudos to from listening to the conference call TNT, who came under a lot of pressure. Kudos to the work he's doing out of California, and his brother Ray ran that's assisted. I wouldn't have never known about that in this particular bank if it wasn't for listening to his show some years ago when I was at that particular. I don't bank with them anymore recently. By the way, I'm with another institution because I owed a balance last year, so a little bit behind in that. But I credit TNT, giving credit where credit is due. I wouldn't have known if that wasn't for his conference calls. That's why I believe it's legitimacy in what he's saying. We can learn different things from multiple intel providers, by the way. Okay, Chef Matt says, not good to work at night for your health. Yes, I am aware. Thank you. My relatives even brought that up, by the way. Galactic Soul says, thank you. Good times. You're welcome. Emerald Sky says, thank you so much for all your help. You're welcome. Emerald says, thanks so much for educating us. You're welcome. Thank you so much for sharing your knowledge and information. It keeps me hopeful. Okay, I'm glad. Thank you for confirming, because some people, they need to hear that or should see that or whatever. Health Life says, hello, will you get the 800 number? I don't think so. If I do, you want to be paying attention, because they say tier 4B is like the internet group, the people in the know, basically people who are like basically paying attention to what's going on with this type of investment. I heard Bruce's call mentioned he's supposed to get it. If you type in Bruce the Bit Call, go on the search engine. So if you get word, because you guys could even find out before I do, whatever, let me know. But some things I may not post that. I'll have to listen again. If they want it to be posted publicly, if some of the top people, someone in the know contacted me, then I would let you guys know if it was okay. But some information is sensitive. So, hey, if they don't mind, if they want that to be posted, so I'm pretty sure I heard with the Zim, they want to get people in and out. They want this to go in a timely fashion, from what I understand. So I wouldn't mind sharing it. If they wanted me to go public, hey, that's fine with me. 7100 Warhawk says, hello, Dorsey. I'm glad I caught you. I hope all is well. Thank you for joining, 7100 Warhawk. Appreciate you. Keisha says, the new system is the QFS. Okay, thank you for confirming, Keisha. Quantum Financial System. Slim Bobby says, thank you for sharing. Has this source been accurate in the past, by the way? Yes, if you're referring to the source that I'm reading from, by the way, not sure which source. Have several different sources, as I mentioned earlier, from a lower level source. The high level sources I haven't met. I'm just reading from relaying intel from one of my other sources, by the way. But yeah, this is, I think, a critical part. Once again, I encourage everyone to do your own homework, research. I'm just simply a messenger. You guys have all the power. Just relaying information that I will share with me. 7100 Warhawk says, I read in the Epic Times that a new gold bank currency will be released in October. I would think that the RV would need to happen before or right when that happens. Your thoughts? Yes, and that would make sense. Why I asked someone, one of my sources, if they had any idea when it would possibly be taking place or something coming up, and they said they knew that there was something that had to happen in October, but they didn't go into the details about it. Thank you for sharing that. Now I see, because I heard that correlates with even a new type of treasury or something, that something's happening, going to happen with the IRS too. I've heard. I was given the law last year when I contemplated on going back to that event that I attended. By the way, this will tie in with that. But what I noticed from watching the public news is disguised when I was reading and listening to updates about the stimulus ordeal that's going on. There's some things happening behind the scenes. Trump is also being used as a front person too. He's a manager, but there's a lot of things, so people have to pay attention. But there's going to be some people in the public who are not going to have an idea, by the way. But I'm starting to get it. I'm seeing how some of the things are happening. He's not in charge of. It's going on behind the scenes that's happening, but they're making it look like one thing is going on in the public, but another thing is actually taking place behind the scenes. They're just using him as a scapegoat or a front person. But I heard there was a law, I think it's HR 25 or something like that, I was told, where the IRS is supposed to be eventually going away. They're going to eventually fade out. They're going to be moving to, I heard, allegedly a flat tax standard, 15%. I don't know how all that's going to work. But there was a conference call that I mentioned that came out some years ago. If you guys can still find it online, I'm not sure if you can. It was called Thing 1 and Thing 2. It provided insight, even though many things have changed. That call came out around maybe 2011, 2010 era. It provided very good information. Oki the oil man, who was known for some years as a top guru or intel provider. I haven't heard from Oki. I used to hear TNT used to reference his name out there. So I'm not sure if Oki's still around. Let me know if you guys, if you are aware. He used to mention, he was actually on that conference call, by the way, that was called Thing 1 and Thing 2. I don't know if you guys will still be able to find it, if it is available at all. I haven't done a search on it recently, but you can check the different search engines to see if you can still find it. But it helped provide insight into the RV, the revaluation of global currency reset, the GCR. So that's why I go over that documentary called Changes on the Horizon. By the way, you guys want to check that out, called Changes on the Horizon. That helps provide, it helps complement this information, by the way. So that's a good magazine article. I'm hearing about the Epoch Times. I've been seeing their commercials on YouTube. I have a friend, Warhawk, that says he's going to subscribe to them because I hear they report on the real news that's unbiased and unfair, and we need that. Basically, that's going to be legitimately. And they talked about the FISA abuse that took place by the previous administration, and some pretty heavy things. And I actually, before they pulled those articles up, you can pull some of those dossier files or templates online. They have those flow charts of the people that were involved with the surveillance, that illegal surveillance that took place. By the way, you can look that up online and get evidence. I recommend download the files and images while you can before Google tries to get rid of them, because you notice why would they be trying to censor, get rid of stuff if there wasn't no legitimacy to it? You know, that shows you they're trying to control the narrative, the thought police, trying to literally control people thinking, cover up for the left. Remember the ruling class elite, the cabal global syndicate, aka the Illuminati, are using the mainstream media, the liberal control media, as their pawn to push their new world order agenda. That's why they're funding anarchist groups. George Soros, who I've heard is a front for the Federal Reserve banking system, he has a son named Alexander Soros, who's based in New York as well. In my opinion, with that recent attorney general that came out talking about she wants to sue the NRA, which I think is political. She needs to look into George Soros and his son Alexander Soros, who through their foundation, Open Society Foundation, has pumped a lot of money into these anarchist groups, Antifa, Black Lives Matter, RevCom, Communist Party of America, Democratic Socialists. He needs to be investigated because he's violated a lot of laws which the average person would not be allowed to do. He needs to be looked into. By the way, she needs to look into Soros and his son Alexander Soros too, by the way, how they're laundering, because it's a form of money laundering too, by the way. And I hear George Soros is worth $4 trillion, by the way, has a net worth. He owns the Tavistock Institute. And if he truly cared about Black people, because I heard him say not too long ago he denied funding the Black Lives Matter movement. Then he came out recently and said he wants to put more funding into it. And the problem is, I don't have nothing wrong with activism, but when you get into rioting, destroying property, businesses, then we have a problem that you guys are trying to overthrow the government. Then you are trying to forcefully bring American people, whether they like it or not, you're trying to forcefully bring them into communism. And if you study the history on communism and socialism, it's always failed. It's never worked, always historically. You look past it, Lenin, Mao Zedong, Idi Amin in Uganda. They made a movie called The Last King of Scotland, played by the actor Forrest Whitaker. Watched a movie called Hotel Rwanda with the actor Don Cheadle, when they brought in the so-called UN peacekeepers. Watch Blood Diamond. That's a good movie. But these dictatorships, which is they're trying to bring in a one world government, which I could have a whole separate video on that. I was listening to this historian from years ago by the name of Michael Tsarian, and he was in an interview and he was talking about that the globalists, he was referring to the ruling class elite, are funding anarchist groups. And this is, I think, is being done intentionally, by the way, and they're also closely related, tied to the leftists, the Democrat, liberal, Socialist Democratic Party, by the way, which is not the original party of JFK, not the same party anymore, by the way. And I want to say, to be fair, I do swing more to the right, even though I'm not a registered voter, by the way. So I can look at things from a fair, honest perspective. You can get real answers because I haven't voted in years, not since 2004. But I'm telling you, this is from my interpretation of what I see. The whole George Floyd thing, they're using the police as a scapegoat, by the way, because a lot of that money, I heard from listening to other people, that money didn't even go to George Floyd's family. By the way, it was funneled into the Democratic Party, which is a form of money laundering, by the way. And I was speaking with, my friend took me to an event some years ago that was like a annual preppers event in Michigan, where they have like these conferences or shows for people involved in that. And I was speaking with the lady there. She was a former school teacher, and her husband was an electrician. He had a booth set up. And she's a white woman. I'm a Black guy, of course. We one of a few Black people that were there. And she opened up to me, and I found out she grew up in the neighborhood that I grew up in on the west side of Detroit. And she shared some information with me. And this is a real conversation. I'm not making this up. But she said one of the reasons why the kids would not have toilet paper in some of the schools sometimes, I've seen this on the news locally here in Detroit, even textbooks. This happened at my old high school I graduated from. Cooley High School, which is the same high school that Mike Ilitch graduated from, that owned the Little Caesars, rest in peace to, by the way, and other famous people went there. She told me that that money was being laundered and funneled into the Democratic Party, by the way. And I know from years past, I have a relative who knew someone who worked for the school board and talked about school board members, how money was being mismanaged, and while they ran out, people were showing up in limos or whatever, and stuff of that sort. And big shout out to the sister years ago. She watched me sometimes, Sister Holton. Her husband died some years ago. So I knew her from the church through a relative of mine. Kudos to Sister Holton for sharing that information with my relative some years ago, who shared it with me. This is some of the criminality very similar, and why the city and schools ran out of money and would have to bring in the emergency manager. I had a friend who studied political science and economics and told me he saw this coming years prior. He's more knowledgeable than myself, and he's also has a background in the military. This is where I found out he had former secret security clearances. I didn't know this originally, but this shows credibility. This means that my sources, people that I know privately, when I give you guys information, I want you guys to know that I'm credible. You're not getting no one that's hiding behind a fake account. By the way, you're getting someone that's showing their real face, by the way, because there's those that will want you to believe that their facts matter. And I do real honest research, genuine research. And I encourage you guys, don't take my word for what I'm saying, but do your research. There's been many articles out there that of these types of things that are taking place. So I'm going to get back to the chat again. Says, but appreciate the comment, Warhawk. Epoch Times is really good from what I've heard from looking at so far. I may even consider, if I can down the road, subscribing to their content. By the way, very informative. Good Times says, I heard a grocery store was blown up in United Arab Emirates that had pallets of Zim, Dong, and Dinar of cabal to redeem and become in power after the RV. You have any thoughts? Yeah, that conference call that I mentioned previously, called Thing 1 and Thing 2, they discussed that was one of the things they didn't want cabal members to get their hands on this money. And that's why they're doing background checks extensively, by the way, for not just for the child sex trafficking, but the international drug trafficking rings. And I'm not talking about lower level people too, by the way. So guys, when I bring this up, I have friends, people in the street. I understand it's people trying to survive out here. So understand, I'm talking about the bosses, whatever. When you hear me refer, there's already high level arrests that have taken place. Like even with the Nexium cult in Hollywood, our local news, WXYZ Channel 7, I saw reported on the actor Allison Mack. I didn't really know who she was from the Smallville show. And then the lady, she wasn't the head of it, but the lady who was the head of that Nexium cult, she pled guilty. And I found out Richard Branson was connected to that from an article that I read on InfoWars, by the way. So I read a plethora of information, this stuff, but the mainstream media, remember when the Jerry Sandusky thing happened, they were blowing that up. That was really big, but they noticed after Trump got elected, they made some really big arrests in California, but the liberal controlled mainstream media didn't blow it up as much as the Epstein thing. So it shows you they're trying to suppress and keep people from knowing about this information, by the way. So that's why you want to continue to spread the word, wake your loved ones, your family members up. We're in an information war, but the cabal is being defeated. I'm hearing good reports that they're having nightmares in their sleep, by the way, because they're being exposed with not only this the evil stuff they're doing with the COVID thing, other things as well, by the way. But my thoughts, that conference call, if you can still find it, will help provide information. Good Times, in my opinion, about the comment that you left. That is a possibility. I didn't see a report on that, but if that did occur, take place, yeah, they mean business. There is stuff that's happening behind the scenes. Kishi says, TD Bank stopped selling the VND about 2 months ago. Okay. That will correlate with some of the information that I'm hearing, by the way. I think that's a good sign. Chef Mag says Oki is still around. Okay. Says Oki is on Telegram. He is having health issues. Okay, I think I heard about that. He's hanging in there. So hopefully you have to pray for Oki. I believe he mentioned some years back this would help him tremendously because it's people that had health problems. Even when I attended this event some years ago where I had to go through a bunch of stuff to try to get this or whatever, there was people who died even who never made it. I knew someone personally who she told me she had a brain tumor or whatever, and she needed the funding to get surgery and stuff. But it shows you, with the cabal, they're evil. They've delayed this for so many years. They prolonged this to show you how evil they are. I mean, I've harped enough in the past, but well, hopefully this will be right around the corner. By the way, but thanks for that intel about Oki, Chef and Anthony. Appreciate you. Sherry Clark says, "Hi Dorsey, Santa surfing broadcast is updated with the Nasara." Okay, I'm not sure who Santa surfing broadcast is. I'm not familiar with that. If you want to elaborate, Sherry says. Anthony Simmons says, not only do they control the mainstream media, when you peel back the layers, we find out they actually own most of the mainstream media networks and platforms globally. Yes, that is true. I actually posted something earlier today, then I removed it from both my Facebook accounts because I'm like, what's the use? They've created an echo chamber on this my Facebook personal page. Now, I didn't post it to my other page that deals with this channel, but my personal page, I know it's people that see my posts and they just don't comment because Facebook they trying to control when you hear about the so-called hate speech and stuff, and they want to control basically speech they don't control because they know people they found out have been using it as a tool to wake loved ones and family members up. So it's become a big echo chamber. So I have a lot of relatives who are liberal. So on my personal page, I limit my time on there. I'll read posts from time to time. Sometimes I'll be on Instagram while I bump the music. That's when I'm showing my more liberal side, my relaxed side, in my downtime or whatever when I'm chilling. My Twitter handle is more on the right, by the way. I'm just giving you guys a heads up. I do support Trump, by the way. Even though I'm not a registered voter, felt he was the lesser of two evils when it came to him versus Hillary. And the thing, I have my arguments, and I did a video already previously about the history of the Democratic Party, by the way, how they actually created the Ku Klux Klan, and they were also behind and created the Black Codes, by the way, that was spoken about. I noticed on a conference call a couple years ago, this guy spoke of it, but they didn't truly switch hats as a lot of people try to say they switched over and became conservatives. No, that isn't true. A lot of the Democrats, the top liberals, were race is still hidden within the party. Like you had Governor Ralph Northam of Virginia, which was caught wearing blackface, just like the Prime Minister in Canada, Kevin Trudeau. ABO, Anthony Bryan Logan, reported on that, by the way, who I follow. I follow a host of people. I even follow Africa Diaspora channel because there is injustices and things that do happen. It's just a taboo subject, the elephant in the room, by the way. Obviously, being a black man, I do get profiled sometimes. I do recognize that, but I haven't had experience, as bad experience dealing with the white supremacists or the KKK. I have had more bad experiences dealing with my own people, black people, by the way. And there's more details I can go into about that. So yeah, they definitely control the media, by the way. And I have a lot of notes I can go into, but remember, the ruling class elite are using the Democratic Party as an arm to try to bring in socialism and communism, by the way. Try to see if I can find some notes that I have. Okay, was further up here. Okay, a lot of Democrats, Joe Biden and other Democrats, also supported the 1994 crime bill that sent a lot of black men to prison, by the way. See, here's the thing that's going on. Read some notes that I have, because I have a whole nother video. I even copy and paste comments from people I see from reading messages on Facebook. But I went over this before. See, the Democrats don't want a solution to the problem in many cases. They just want to profit off of the issues. They want to drum up issues to keep pushing the racism narrative. They want to gain more power off these divisive issues. What I'm saying is the Republican Party has a better pathway all the way around. Does it right all of the wrongs? No, I'm not saying that. However, Democrats don't collectively address all of the needs of their supporters, by the way. Like the George Floyd thing's based off a black man. For example, they will use a black man's death at the hands of the police as a prop. But they'll champion another cause such as women's rights, LGBTQ, immigration, which don't focus on specifically solving helping black men. This was supposed to be based off George Floyd, who was a black man like myself, a melanated man, by the way. But it seems when it comes up to divvying up the spoils, a lot of the black women, African American women, actually benefit more so because of feminism. The Democratic Party is known to make promises, but they'll champion other causes. By the way, when people try to say President Obama couldn't do anything, and at one time the Democrats were in control of the House and the Senate when he was in office, I heard, but that's not true because he went out of his way to help. My friend gave me the information to help pass an executive order, gay marriage for the LGBTQ. Obama created the DACA thing for illegal immigrants, but when it comes to urban problems such as poverty, high crime rate, lack of fathers in households, abortion, which is a big problem, high jobless rates, he didn't make a significant change. Just what question that I ask is, what did President Obama, if you have problems with Trump, what did Obama do for black people? He could have passed an executive order for reparations. He didn't. Or whatever. He could have helped, and he mentioned he's the president of everybody. That was the given excuse, by the way, too. So that's why I have a problem. My issues with Obama. Leftists love free speech too until you disagree with them. Like, I don't see this coming from conservatives, by the way, like with the tech giants. Well, they'll allow you to be on there, but they'll censor you. They kick people off left and right. So you can't have it both ways where you want to get mad at Trump for banning TikTok, but you won't be mad at Facebook for censoring conservatives or people whose political views you don't agree with. And this has been going on for a while. So I find it interesting where the left wants to preach tolerance and acceptance. However, their actions in many cases are consistently biased towards those who don't share the same political ideology, by the way. So this is, to me, this is hypocrite. So yeah, they control a lot of the liberal media. But the globalists, the ruling class, elite, the Illuminati, basically are using the left, the Democrats, as their operatives, by the way. And keep in mind, there's a segment of the Caucasian Jewish population and Jewish elite in the entertainment industry who use black people as a pawn, by the way. These people are also so smart, they know they don't have to cater to any other race, so they'll come up with movies like Black Panther, etc. They did that to cater to black people subconsciously. By the way, they talk about colonizers. So when you look at people like Maxine Waters, Nancy Pelosi, the Obamas, the Clintons, etc., they have a lot of things when they want to request Trump's income taxes. They need to be taking a look at that. When they go into office, they have gone in broke and come out millionaires when you look up their net worth while working in government. The difference with Trump, in comparison, he made his money off of hotels, resorts, real estate, casinos, golf courses, etc. He even paved ways for minorities, I was informed, through golf courses, by the way. That's why Tiger Woods wouldn't speak against him. He knew all the great work that Trump did to pave the way for minorities in golf, by the way. These Democrats come into office with significantly lower incomes, yet when they leave office, they become multimillionaires, by the way. Trump also donated his whole salary, presidential salary, too, by the way. He did it, again, I heard, this is another thing that doesn't get reported on. They don't want to mention anything positive that he does. They just want to drum up the issues, racism, he's a racist, bigot, this, that, and the other. They don't talk about the other aspect, the positive side. When Democrats go into office, as I mentioned earlier, they have significantly lower incomes, but when they left office, they become multimillionaires. This is called corruption, and I personally see this coming mostly from the Democratic Party. when I compare the lesser of two evils, two wrongs don't make a right. However, corruption has been more of a rampant problem in the democratic liberal controlled communities in comparison. Another thing, my problem with the left is there is no middle ground. For example, when you go offer an opinion outside their party narrative, they will vilify you, blacklist you, etc. I don't really see this coming from the right too much. Only this TikTok thing more recently, but you have YouTube censored. They've censored that video. Those doctors came out as whistleblowers recently. That was Facebook, Twitter, all in comparison. By the way, it's just sad. So just going over my notes, this is why I swing more to the right. If you're wondering about my political views, my ideology, I have a lot of notes compiled to make my case or whatever. So as I was saying, two wrongs don't make a right, but there's been more rampant corruption on the left. Another thing, as I said earlier, the left is no middle ground. If you offer opinion or narrative or solution outside of the party, they'll try to vilify you. Like there was a representative in Michigan when she exposed that the hydroxychloroquine made her better, and she visited the White House. She got vilified. I found out they blacklisted her. By the way, I have an article. I'm gonna see if I can pull it up. See if I can find that real quick, because I did bookmark it to see if I can find her name. I think her last name was Whitsett. Michigan Senate to approve. Okay, let me see if I can find, because I bookmark a lot of articles, by the way. Let me see if I can find that. I saw the article about that ship that JP Morgan had that was seized, where found drugs on board, was owned by a hedge fund. Okay, is this more recently? Lawmaker. Okay, this should be it. It says lawmaker from Detroit sues Whitmore following Democrats. I'm gonna turn the camera so you guys can see, by the way. Show you the hypocrisy of the Democratic Party. If you guys can see that. Lawmaker from Detroit sues Whitmore, fellow Democrats, over censor after she met with President Trump. By the way, she was a Democrat. This to show you an example to confirm what I was reading. They blacklisted her. And I'll read the state rep. Karen Whitsett, Detroit, filed a federal lawsuit Thursday against Governor Gretchen Whitmore, several fellow Democrats claiming violations of free speech and defamation. Specifically, Whitsett claimed Whitmore and the 13th Congressional District Democratic Party organization sought to deprive of her right to engage in protected speech after she publicly thanked President Donald Trump for his suggestion for using the drug hydroxychloroquine to treat her coronavirus case. Okay, next part of the article. It says Whitsett contracted the virus in March and has been open about her appreciation for the president's suggestion, which she says saved her life. While it remains unproven that hydroxychloroquine, now it's been proven. You know, those doctors came out as whistleblowers, by the way, and our local hospital, Henry Ford, I found out they did a study and confirmed the positive effects of it. And there's been, I saw people for minorities for Trump group on Facebook showing this same thing occur even in the state of New York and other places where politicians have come out and said it's helped cure or treat their COVID. It is used to prevent malaria, treat rheumatoid arthritis, Luther's complications of Lyme disease. Whitsett suffers from Lyme disease and was aware hydroxychloroquine could be used to treat the disease, but didn't know until the president mentioned it and that it was being testing for use against COVID-19. As a result, Whitsett was invited to the White House to meet with Trump on April 14th. During that meeting, she thanked Trump for the suggestion and said her condition went from 0 to 100 after she began taking the drug. Following that meeting, Whitsett began receiving criticism for her public statements and was eventually censored by the 13th Congressional District Democratic Party organization. The organization took exception to her comments on the drug and the rec, saying they painted a picture that isn't true and spreads misinformation. Chris McClain, a precinct delegate for the organization, who wrote the censor resolution, explained the decision to live last month prior to the censor vote. It says her individual circumstance does not apply to everyone. McClain says she misrepresented a lot of the priorities and needs of her community when she went to go meet with the president. McClain, who was not named in the lawsuit, went on to say our leaders have a platform and they shouldn't use that platform to spread misinformation or play with the health and safety of the people that live here. See, he's just going along with the party narrative, whoever he is, the establishment. This is how you can tell who establishment people are. More than 10,000 Detroiters have tested positive for COVID-19. According to the lawsuit, Whitsett says she also received a text message from Whitmore on April 19th regarding the meeting with Trump. By the way, you're entitled to your opinion. I'm just disappointed you take your theories public without seeking to get answers first. Take care, Whitmore is accused of saying via text. Whitsett and her attorney, Norman Yatuma and Christine L. Constantino Jr. claimed the political organization worked to silence her free speech. At Whitmore's prompting, the lawsuit alleges the organization passed a resolution that bars Whitsett from holding any position or committee membership within the group. The censor also meant the organization would not endorse her in future elections, the lawsuit says. As a result of the censor, Whitsett says she has been ousted by the party and the defendants continue to hinder her ability to do her job. An example, the lawsuit claimed Whitsett arranged 388,680 meals to be delivered to her constituents in Detroit. Wow. By the way, let's go back. Okay, you guys still here. I'm going back to read the article. Okay, so it says, as a result of the censor, Whitsett says she has been ousted by the party and the defendants continue to hinder her ability to do her job. As an example, the law claims Whitsett arranged for 388,680 meals to be delivered to her constituents in Detroit, and the defendants refused to allow her the help of the Michigan Army National Guard to distribute the meals as previously arranged. Let's read that again. And the defendants refused to allow her the help of the Michigan. So this shows you how the Democratic Party, when you try to do good or there's no middle ground. To support the point that I was making earlier when I got political with you guys, I'm pulling up an article from a state rep that sued our governor here. This is local stuff you may not hear about because the liberal controlled mainstream media didn't report on this mostly, only maybe locally, but you won't hear this on World News Tonight, etc. Jonathan Kinlock, the chair of the 13th Congressional District Democratic Party organization, said he had not been served with the lawsuit and had yet to read it when reached for comment. Okay. Okay, so just wanted to read that article to you guys. That was just to back up some of the notes that I took, that I was sharing. I was reading from with the Democratic Party. Why I left, when I was a registered voter some years ago, I was a Democrat, but I canceled it as a 2004. I voted for Gore in 2000, and then I voted for a former mayor. This was in the primaries before the main election, Mayor Kwame Kilpatrick. Like I said, it was in the primaries. But when I woke up to information pertaining to redemption stuff back in 2004, I canceled it. I went to the Department of Elections, but mainly I see more corruption coming from the Democratic Liberal Party than I do the Conservative Party. By the way, it's more rampant, and I'm right. I have a lot of relatives who are liberal. I'm around liberal control areas. They were even responsible for the Flint thing. They decided Flint was a liberal control city. They decided to put Flint on that river, that bad water. And they were warned. I had a coworker told me it was a doctor that warned them ahead of time not to do that. And then there was a scandal, which that mayor, she didn't get reelected. She was caught up in. I saw our local news channel 7 reported on where they had stole like water bottles or whatever. It was a bunch of stuff going on there that was supposed to go to the residents in the meantime when that whole Flint scandal broke out. But, they made it a liberal thing and they put all the blame on Governor Snyder, by the way, who's really like a moderate conservative. He wasn't not a traditional. He is establishment just like Whitmore. but they pinned all the blame on him. But remember, Kwame Kilpatrick, former mayor, spoke out from prison, said him and former liberal governor Jennifer Granholm knew about that, who Jennifer Granholm also colluded with former presidential candidate Hillary Clinton when Hillary Clinton was running against President Obama in 2008 to keep Obama's name off the ballot, him and John Edwards. And I heard that at the time, him and John Edwards were considering suing, even though Obama ended up winning the nomination. Because remember, he came back, he was behind in delegates during that year, and he came back to defeat Hillary in the end. But earlier on, I found that out from listening to this radio talk show host, by the way, when, why hasn't that been brought up that Hillary she's got away with stuff because she's a woman and, dealing with, the history of feminism. She was good friends with Gloria Steinem, by the way, who I noticed was the woman that was sitting next to her election night. I kept saying, where did I see her? Where have I seen her before? That's tied in with Margaret Sanger and the eugenics movement, which specifically targeted Black people of color, by the way. So people on the right, or more so, can make just as much of an argument, if not more, why more Black people should be Republican or conservative than Democrat. Remember, it was the Republicans, conservatives, that authored the original Civil Rights Act. I found out the one that John F. Kennedy based off of before, after he was killed, murdered, by the way, Lyndon Baines Johnson, who came in and took over. By the way, they tweaked it around the connection to the Dixiecrats that he had, because the Democratic Party started the KKK. They also voted for the Jim Crow laws, by the way, in case you don't know, this is real history. And Lyndon Baines Johnson, the reason he said, I'll have those N-words voting Democrat for the next 200 years, because they tweaked it and made it where they put in the welfare state. They call those entitlement programs, by the way. And that was designed to run out, but it was designed in a way to destroy and wreck the Black community, by the way. So that's why in our modern day society, when it comes to divvying up the spoils, it's very controlled, where the BLM, which base a lot of their protests off of Black men getting killed, don't really care about Black men, even though they're throwing Breonna Taylor's name out here or whatever. We do have bad police, I think, and things, need to change. But do you accuse everyone of being bad? By the way, yes, there needs to be change, fixed. But remember, there's an agenda. The ruling class elite, the globalists like George Soros and others, who George Soros is Hungarian Jew, by the way, has admitted even recently to funding BLM and other groups. But I'm just going over the evidence that they don't really support the Black community like that. They take the Democratic Party, which a lot of that money got funneled to, because I heard it didn't go to George Floyd's family. Now if it did, let me know. But I heard from another YouTuber that his family didn't get that money, but a lot of that money went into the Democratic Party. And as far as the Black community, I heard Joe Biden, as of recently, is pandering to the Hispanic community. So to show you, it's sad they champion other causes, by the way. So just going over some notes that I have, by the way, since the one person who brought up the media, I know this kind of branched into, that's why I call it liberal control media. But as I mentioned earlier, Democrats come into office with significantly lower incomes. They come out rich. Two wrongs don't make a right. However, I did mention corruption is more rampant on the left. Another thing I did say, the left, there's no middle ground. That's why I read the article about Miss Whitsett. Modern day Democrats don't allow party members, registered voters, to support causes not backed by their socialist communist agenda. Let me read that again. Modern day Democrats, which is not the same party as JFK, do not allow party members, registered voters, to support causes not backed by their socialist communist agenda. What do I mean? If you were liberal, they want you to support causes like BLM, LGBTQ, immigration. Then without evidence, if you support something else, they accuse you of being a racist, a homophobic, a bigot, etc. If you and then there's no middle ground if you're not on either side. Even me not being a registered voter, they say, oh, that's a vote for Trump. How does it prove that? There's a lot of people that's not registered voters, by the way. Then they will go as far as, they say, if you're Black, they will even go as far as to shame you, by the way. Like Joe Biden said, if you don't vote for me, you're not black. Establishment members in the black community allow these issues, these other issues, to take precedence over the major issues affecting the black community, as I mentioned previously. And this is problem is mainly coming from black boule people, establishment people who work these political campaigns and make money off these issues. They don't truly address the needs of black people. Who am I speaking of? A lot of these boule people belong to this organization and subgroups. You have Eastern Stars, this is the Baphomet, and you also have fraternities and sororities who act as gatekeepers or underlings, by the way. Now, I'm not accusing everyone who belongs to this organization as far as being evil or wicked, but a lot of times they're being paid. They're not really helping the people, melanated people, as they should. And when you study the history behind the Democratic Party, like Young Pharaoh and others, I found out has been going into this, which surprised me. You'll find a true history that is not really being told to a lot of black people across the country. I do understand demographically there's bad things that happen. I acknowledge that. I don't think people should be mistreated. We've made a lot of progress and change. However, I think black people need to get more educated on the history, because at one time more black people were Republican. It was just the when Lyndon Baines Johnson came into office, the entitlement programs, they tweaked it to keep through the black people hooked through the welfare state and other agendas, eugenics, Planned Parenthood, funded by the Ford Foundation, Rockefeller Foundation, by the way, and feminist movement too. So getting back into the chat, I'm gonna finish up before I shut things down. So thank you for the comment, Anthony Simmons. You are correct. They not only control the mainstream media, when you peel back the layers, yes, and major platforms globally. Sherry Clark says X22 report also. I'm familiar with the X22 report. I do like their reports and the SGT report, by the way. Mary Saunders says, hello, Mr. Dorsey. Greetings to you, Mary. Thank you for joining. Appreciate you for joining. Health Life says, hello, Mr. Dorsey. What percentage do you believe that the RV will happen August 10th or 11, 2020? I'm very impressed with your knowledge. Thanks for the intel. As I went over earlier, I kind of mentioned I'm skeptical about it. I don't really get into the dates or rates anymore. I'm just sharing what was relayed to me. So I put it on the back burner. Once we won't know until maybe the 800 numbers come out, allegedly, once that's released. But I'm not putting any stock into it personally. Just me, maybe different for you, newbie, someone I spoke to. I used to get really excited years ago, but when they kept delaying this, stalling it. But I understand there's certain reasons going on why this is occurring. I think I've become more mature as far as not getting too impatient and hyped up. And because of all of the delays that's occurred, by the way. It's a real good question, though. Anthony Simmons says, facts, Dorsey. Facebook, IG, and YouTube have been on a rampant censorship campaign, erasing and flagging anything that speaks on alternative views and intel. Thank you for confirming. Yes, you are correct. And you guys know, in case you're not aware, there are other alternative media sites, other web hosting platforms that don't censor, are more friendly. And I may be jumping on some of them. One of them I'm already on, Brighteon. I haven't got a chance to really work on my page over there, but I am on minds.com. But Brighteon is a good one. That's Mike Adams, the health ranger. Remember, he was banned, kicked off YouTube before Alex Jones was, by the way. Totally delisted, no strikes whatsoever. But a lot of people don't know that. So kudos to the work he's doing at Brighteon. And then the other person I mentioned is on band.video. You want to make sure you subscribe to band.video. If you want to know the real news, you want to see that video that was censored, but that those doctors that was removed from Facebook, Twitter, that went viral, that Twitter, Facebook, and YouTube didn't want you to see. It is on those sites, Brighteon and band.video. Also check out BitChute.com. BitChute, they had that video as well. And there's others out there. These are other web hosting platforms that are censorship friendly or whatever. I just say govern yourselves accordingly if you go over to these other platforms, but I appreciate them. And we should have a backup. So YouTube, Twitter, and Facebook, they shouldn't have been able to have monopolies. I've gone over this in the past. I had a specific video about where they are in violation of the law. by the way, with the censorship. They registered as public utilities. A federal judge, had already made a ruling that the comment section on Twitter was a public utility. This was earlier on when Trump was tweeting a while back or whatever. I can't remember exactly, not too long after he won his nomination or whatnot. And there was some controversy over people. Something happened, but the federal judge made a ruling because these social media tech giants, they registered as public utilities, but when they got really big or whatever, they abandoned the content creators, the people that built their platforms up, and have turned them into monopolies, very similar to mainstream media sites, companies that are controlled by globalist ruling class elites, part of the global syndicate, also known as the Illuminati, by the way. So yes, they have, but just keep in mind that's an alternative. Don't let it discourage you, but have a backup. And in case you guys are wondering, don't forget to subscribe to my other YouTube channel as a backup, my backup channel, by the way. Sherry Clark says the RV is happening now. He knows sight tells step by step in real time what's going on. I think you had some typos in there. I have heard that, yes, the RV is in the midst of a rollout, by the way. Joseph says, smash the like button. Thank you, Joseph. Appreciate you guys. Yeah, you guys, don't forget, you guys are doing an excellent job. Don't forget to hit the thumbs up, smash the like button. Appreciate you all. And don't forget to subscribe, by the way. Make sure you subscribe. Hit the notification bell at the bottom. So on your smartphone or whenever you log in to your YouTube channel, they will notify you whenever I put out new videos, by the way. Good Time says, you speak the truth and keep it up. Appreciate you. Anthony Simmons says, Trump even gave loans to black people back in the 80s when banks wouldn't. And he forgave the loans when people came to pay it back. Judge Joe Brown spoke on this in depth. Okay, I had always wondered about that, about Judge Joe Brown. Because I know the liberals, it's some stuff that when you can tell when some information is partially trying to get out there, because I heard some other people that are more left-leaning that I follow, because I listen to everybody still. Because I told a friend of mine today, there's people that use an excuse, say, I don't watch the mainstream media or local media. I said, I want to watch it, so I want to see what lies they're up to. And I want to compare it with the independent media that tells the truth, that's more factual, the ones that are genuine, like that's more fair, like Band.video, Epoch Times, by the way. So yeah, I didn't know that. I wouldn't be surprised, because that was partially in my article, that there is some discriminatory practices that black people have suffered through that's not being talked about with banks and insurance companies. They had a new law they passed in Michigan, which to show my bipartisanship, I did like the fact that Rashida Tlaib, she stood up against these insurance corporation CEOs with this new insurance law, because they were charging a lot of the residents in Detroit high car insurance rates, by the way, which are astronomical. So they came up with a new rule. They can't go by your zip code and your credit score, by the way. They're seen as discriminatory, and I can go more in depth. But I didn't know that about Trump, Anthony Simmons. Thank you for that information. That's critical as I compile notes. I have to maybe do research on that. But it wouldn't surprise me, because I know he did a lot of good things, and that doesn't get talked about as much. And okay. Joseph says, Kinlock and Tlaib. Okay. Keisha says, thumbs up. Well, I appreciate you guys. I'm already in over 2 hours. So just to let you know, if you guys are still joining me, this is the last call for take any questions, comments, or concerns. I'm getting ready to shut things down. This video the topic was dealing with the Tier 4B update, dealing with the Zim IQD or whatever. This was also Q&A, so I did cover most of that. I read the articles, the two main articles, the updates that I received from one of my sources, by the way, which I appreciate. So if you guys have this is the last call for any questions, comments, or concerns. If not, I'm getting ready to shut things down. Don't hesitate. So with that being said, you guys can follow me at Dorsey's Resource on Twitter. I'm also, obviously, I'm on Facebook. You can find me on there. I'm on minds.com, by the way. I'm also on Instagram. That's I say my more liberal side, but my Twitter handle is more I have more Trump followers that follow me on Twitter, more on the right, but it's whatever. I'm apolitical. I'm not a registered voter, by the way, but I support Trump. I like what he's doing overall. I feel, in my opinion, he was the lesser of two evils when it came to Hillary Clinton, by the way. And I don't think he gets a fair shake by the mainstream media. Just my 2 cents, by the way. So yeah, my Twitter handle. I appreciate you guys. I have a larger following on there, by the way. So I am on Instagram. That's my more personal side when I'm more laid back, by the way, at Dorsey's Resource _2019. Facebook, once again. We also want to work on getting on other platforms, web hosting platforms as well, to combat the censorship, by the way. So I just work with redirecting the traffic. But you guys have been awesome. Those who have been loyal, continuing to follow me, I appreciate you guys. Health Life says, when will you be on again? I'm not sure exactly, but I said I'll try to come before you guys more often. By the way, I try not to make definites because recently I had to cancel when I was a little bit under the weather, like a couple weeks ago, a week and a half ago. And since YouTube now has the messages where content creators can leave messages, I can try to give you guys a heads up. I can work on that if there's a good chance. This is my off day, by the way. So to kind of answer your question, I do I don't have like specific dates. I was actually working on coming to you guys live yesterday, Saturday, but it didn't work out. I had a freak accident that happened. By the way, I was supposed to go hiking with a friend of mine earlier Sunday, but it didn't work out. I told him what happened, by the way. So it was going to be like a redo of last year. He gave me a call before I went live, told me how it went. He invited 2 other friends. Shows you I have a life outside of YouTube, which is good to try to keep the balance, to be into other things, because that's one of the things I like to do, by the way. John Tarusa in the chat says, good to see you again. Do you think the Zim will be redeemable at any of the banks? From what I've heard about the Zim, John, is that it's going to be a private exchange, by the way. The Zim is going to be more private. So I was told once the 800 numbers, they do come out, that you're going to only have so much time. I don't know if the banks are going to allow the Zim after a certain time period. I heard you want to get those in ASAP, by the way. So yeah, I think in my opinion, by the way, it's possible. But however, you want to make sure if you hear about the 800 numbers, you want to get those in right away, because I think I heard they want those exchanged in a timely fashion. It says, can you still work as a security guard? I used to listen to you at night all the time. Yes, I still do, by the way. Actually, earlier this year, to answer your question, I was working for another company. I'm actually trying to get out of this field because I feel like in the way inflation is, they just doesn't pay enough anymore. And there's other reasons. I just want to do something different. Plus, the company I work for, the type of shift that I have, I'm doing a night shift. But at the same time, I'm not complaining. It does pay the bills at the end of the day. So doing what I do. But yeah, I do still work in security, by the way. So I'm still here to let you guys know. But there's other avenues to be able to find me in case something happens. By the way, that's why I'm shouting out my social medias for you guys to follow me on in case one thing goes down. So you have the other web hosting platforms that we want to work on getting on, like Brighteon.com, Minds.com. What else? Gab.ai, Band.video. Definitely want to go check out Band.video. Big shout out to the work they're doing over there. So in case this goes down or the censorship gets even worse, you guys will be able to find me on some of these other platforms down the road in case, let's say, they disappeared me or whatever. I was thinking about going dark, but that will be contingent on some things coming down the road if I do decide to shut things down and not do YouTube videos. But I will let you guys know. Hopefully I will try to get you guys a message if that ever occurs. So with that said, I appreciate you guys for joining, continuing to follow me once again. I'm your host, John Dorsey. Don't forget to like this video, share, subscribe. Until next time, you can follow me on Twitter at Dorsey's Resource. I'm on Facebook at Dorsey's Resource. Obviously on YouTube, The marathon will continue. Real legends never die. Big shout out to Currency 365, all of the intel providers, people out there in the movement. Power to you guys. Until next time, deuces. Take care.